Before we get the video started, over 80% of people who watch my videos are currently not subscribed, so if you're part of that group, please consider subscribing. It's free, it helps the channel grow, and it gets me motivated to release more content. Thank you.
So I just wanted to go over each of my add-ons, the different Weakauras that I use in Mythic Plus and Raid, and just kind of talk about each of them so that you guys can decide if you want to use any of the stuff or figure out, what kind of stuff I'm using if you've been watching my stream and whatnot, and you've seen some Weakauras or add-ons pop up that you're not sure of what they are, they're not in my Discord and whatnot. So to start off, we have Elvui. This is the primary add-on I use for pretty much adjusting everything on that you see on my screen: the party frames, the unit frames, the action bars that pop up when I'm out of combat. All that stuff is Elvui. I have stuff in my Discord that links you to my profiles and all that. And then we have Bigwigs up next, which Bigwigs is essentially this timer right here for boss abilities. It pops up mostly in Raid, but it can be useful for Mythic Plus too for this kind of stuff. And then next up we have OmniCD. OmniCD is these cooldowns that you see of each player on the side of their party frame. I only use this in Mythic Plus. This isn't used in Raid at all for me personally. But it basically tracks other people's cooldowns, offensive cooldowns, defensive cooldowns, whatever I want to track. So like for the mage, for instance, I track combust, alter time, their cauterize. I can track like cheat death on the rogue, like all those kind of things. It's super useful, especially as a healer, to know if the mage has cauterize, because then that tells me if I let this guy drop to 0 HP, he's not going to actually die. Same thing with the rogue. But right now the rogue doesn't have cheat death. It's about to come off cooldown. But if the rogue were to hit 0 HP, he would die. So if they ever get into a situation where I'm choosing between healing the mage or the rogue, and one of them is probably going to die, then I would choose to heal the rogue and let the mage die because he has cauterize. And then the next thing I'll go over is my Weakauras. So for Mythic Plus specifically, I have the Mythic Plus timer Weakaura. You can see up at the top left of my screen, right up here. And that just simply is a timer. It's just an alternate, UI interface or whatever you want to call it for the Mythic Plus time, and the the available chests and the bosses available and the percentage that you're doing and everything. And this specifically works with, let me fast forward it a little bit. This specifically works with MDT. To when you're killing a mob, it will use MDT if you have Mythic Dungeon Tools downloaded. That's another add-on, Mythic Dungeon Tools. If you have that downloaded and installed, it will track how much each of the mobs are worth as you're killing them, and let you know like what your new percentage is going to be and all that. And then the other functionality it has is when you are going to get prideful, you can see it lights up in like this kind of red outline, showing you that when this pack dies, you're going to get pride, or something at some point within killing this pack, you have enough for pride. The next thing I have is the quaking bar, which you're not going to see right now, so I will actually go in game to show you that. So the quaking bar is this right here at the bottom of my screen, and what it does, it will track when quaking is going to go off or potentially go off. That's what each of these white lines are, and it'll slowly tick down because quaking just has a chance to go off every 30 seconds. So it tracks those intervals of chances and lets you know when it's going to happen. It won't be exact, but like I said, it tracks when it's potentially going to happen, so it will always be right. It's just you have to use it is partially RNG either way. And then the next one I have is the stop casting Weakaura for Mythic Plus. What this does, same thing, it lines up with the quaking, so that when quaking is going off, it will pop this right on top of your character, wherever you want it to be, and it will just say stop casting with a decimal like countdown. So it'll say 3, 2, 1, and let you know exactly when the quaking is going to explode and interrupt you, so that you have a better idea of like when to actually stop casting. Next up, we can go over some of my specific raid Weakauras. So I'll just jump into a random VOD of our raid here. I'll just fast forward just a tiny bit. Cool. So this is Go like right here. It's fine. Okay, so raid Weakauras, we have the simple combat timer, which is what you see right up here at the left. It's kind of in the middle of my screen. I've since moved it down here, but it's this right here up at the top left of my screen, and it literally is what it says it is. It's just a combat timer, and it keeps track of when you pull the boss until the boss dies. This is really, really useful in raid for every single person, like DPS, healers, tanks. Everyone should have a combat timer because it lets you recognize certain patterns in a fight and when they happen specifically at a certain time, so that if you ever lose track on something, you kind of understand, like, okay, it's 1 minute into the fight. You know, we usually lust at, say, like 3.5 minutes, so I know how much longer I have until we get to that point, or there's a certain mechanic that comes up at this time and whatnot, so... And then the next thing I have for raid is the personal CD Zen tracker, and what this is I will actually put this in full screen real quick. It is all these personal cooldowns you see similar to OmniCD, but it actually puts them on the frame, and it just tracks everyone's personals, and you can see there like the mage's ice blocking, and it'll show it active, and then you can see the warrior and all that. And when a player dies, or yeah, when a player dies, it'll show their cooldowns, like if they had them available or not, so that I can see, like, okay, you know, this player died and had defenses available. But see, like the warrior, for instance, died and he was using everything. Like I saw him using everything. So it's just really helpful because on a fight like Mythic Zymox, it's really, really nice to be able to tell someone, like, hey, you have a debuff and a defensive available, please use it, especially as a healer. More importantly, I'm a raid leader, so it naturally helps with that. But even on a fight like Huntsman, like you could use it to, if someone's targeted by Sin Seeker and you're doing kind of like the heroic strat or something, you could tell someone like, hey, use a defensive because you have Sin Seeker on you, that kind of thing. Okay, and then the next thing I have is the health potion / healthstone tracker. So this little number 2 that you see, or 3 at the top right of everyone's frame, that is how many health potions / healthstone / Kyrian vials that they have available to them. So you'll see as we go later in the fight, if I fast forward a little bit, you'll see some people are at 1, some people, so you can see like we have a Druid here that has 1 but is dead. That means that they had either a health potion or a healthstone available. But then you can look at the other dead players, and if they have a 0, that means they used everything they had before they died as far as like health potion, healthstone goes. So this is another useful thing where it's just like, if I see somebody die as a raid leader, I can say, hey, you had, a health potion or healthstone available and you died. Is that something that could have prevented that death? And it also helps a lot with looking back at like VOD reviews and stuff. And then also, if we get into a bad situation, like say our Demon Hunter tank's getting low and no one's healing him, like right here, if he gets any lower, I would say, hey, use your health potion or healthstone, whatever you have available, because I know that he has 1 available, so I can just specifically tell him to use it. Okay, and then that is it for the raid-specific Weakauras. So now I'm going to go over my universal Weakauras between both raid and Mythic Plus. So the first one is going to be the cooldowns on raid frames, and what this is it is right here, so you can see me pressing Barkskin, and it shows like an actual icon of Barkskin on my raid frame. And same thing with like the demon spikes here on the tank, and we have like bubble on the paladin. It actually shows those defensives on the raid frame, or for instance on the party frame. So if I go here and I fast forward a little bit, we should be able to see it somewhere. Yeah, like see, you can see the Druid has Iron Fur, and it'll just show these things because it's really useful as a healer. Like, this is almost mandatory as a healer to know when people are pressing their buttons and know when people are using a defensive versus not. Because say you're on Prideful or something, like the most important one that I can think of off the top of my head is when the mage uses Alter Time. I can see that, so I see the Alter Time, and I know I should not use any healing on the mage because the Alter Time is just gonna take everything away anyways and bring him back to full HP whenever he wants. So, and then the last one is the Friendly Nameplates Change Font. And what this does is you can see how people's names are much larger and more visible above their head rather than pretty much just completely tiny and invisible unless you get really close to them. And this, for one, I enjoy in Mythic Plus because it kind of lets me keep an eye on like where people are at in the dungeon. And then also in Raid I use this in order to see where, you know, what people are doing, so that if I see someone making like a mistaken raid or something, I can specifically say, you know, rather than like being confused on who it is because I have to like try to tell by the character, I can actually see the name above their head and I can say, hey, you know, you are out of position, and specifically call people out by name rather than guessing who it is, or just saying like, I saw somebody, you know, out of position or away from the raid when they were supposed to be in the raid. So it just helps a lot, and I like it a lot. It looks nice. Okay, and then the last thing that we have left is just to set up OmniCD, so I will show you guys how to do that real quick. So all you do is you just type in, once you have the add-on downloaded, you just type in /OmniCD, open up this window. You're going to go to whichever content is relevant to you that you're trying to edit. So let's say you're trying to change the dungeon stuff that you see on people's party frames. You would go in here, you'd go through each of the tabs and just sort this stuff out. This is all personal preference stuff, or you can pretty much leave it completely alone. The only real thing you have to change with this add-on is the spells. So you go into spells and you're just going to go through every single class and just pick the spells that you want to see versus the ones you don't want to see. Do you want to see DK, you know, disarm, root, silences? Do you want to see their crowd control? Do you want to see their interrupts? Do you want to see any of their covenant abilities? Do you want to see any of their defensives, their offensives, all that kind of stuff? And you can just go through every class. It'll have most of this stuff just kind of already picked out for you. But I'd still recommend going through and just reading some of these abilities, or changing it up just a little bit to suit your personal preference, because honestly, it's honestly going to help so much to be able to go through here and like figure out what these abilities are and help you get a better understanding of like what each class brings and what abilities you want to see. And then besides that, that is all the add-ons to go over. So we went over Elvui a little bit just because that's kind of already done in the profile that you can get for free. And then I would recommend, like, Elvui is like a whole nother video we would kind of have to do. And then Bigwigs, I have a Bigwigs video, so I'll link that in the description. OmniCD, we just went over that, and Weakauras, I went over each of those individually. As far as making your own Weakauras, maybe that could be another video for the future, but there's a bunch of resources out there and stuff if you're interested in getting started on making your own Weakauras. So that pretty much covers everything for this video, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all have a really good day. See ya.